All right. Few minutes. We're going to start by looking at some stuff and then go into the actual kind of topic, I guess, which is this prophecy coming true? Is it just another war that prophecy hunters want to capitalize on? We'll get into a bit of that. All right, let me see. Ghost on his way home. Good. I'm gonna have a pretty hard cut at like 7:15 again, so we'll rush through as much of this as we can. Oh, did I? Did I have a typo? I fixed. Right. I will go a couple of minutes. We've got 10 of you here now. Let's give it another minute or two, and then we'll get in. While you wait, if you can see this, I would I'd take a look. So this is showing the Gaza Strip, and essentially showing that, in a way, they're boxed in. Why isn't Biden an option in the poll? That's fair. Fair point. Zelensky? I mean, if it's Zelensky, it's really Biden, in my opinion. However, I'm going to be real careful about what I say for the first couple of minutes, so we don't get bogged too quickly. All right, anyway, so this is what it says in case you're just listening. It's a map here of the Gaza Strip. It says Israel's land, air, and sea blockade. I'm sorry, I need to get my voice out of my ear or I'm going to go insane. All right. Israel's land, air, and sea blockade has trapped more than 2 million people inside the Gaza Strip since 2007. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has threatened to turn Gaza into a, quote, deserted island, end quote, and warned its residents to, quote, leave now. So you'll see a prohibited zone in the top of the water there on the coast. Bottom of that zone says prohibited zone 1 nautical mile. So this is the safe fishing limit. Israel controls Gaza's territorial waters and airspace. Now, if you look, up here is only open to Palestinians holding Israeli issued permits. Over here was closed in 2010. The next impasse was closed in 2011. Down here closed in 2005. Lower south closed in 2008. The Gaza airport was destroyed by Israel in 2001. But this just gives you kind of an overview, in a way, of what the geographical situation is here. And for anybody who wasn't aware of kind of what the situation was, it's something to have in the back of your head, that this is what they're working with at the moment, regardless of who you think's at fault or anything like that. It's been an odd situation for a very long time. This isn't a new thing. It's not a something just crazy happened overnight. This has been happening to one degree or another. It's been happening. It's not new. So that's kind of what the situation there is currently. Now, real quick, I want to show this video. So more than 250 bodies that have been discovered at the site of the music festival in southern Israel. Many are foreign nationals, including Americans, Germans, and Norwegians. Now, real quick, just to save my own butt, right in the beginning, most of what I'm going to show you lacks community notes, which means nobody within the Twitter sphere was able to at least prove that any of this was, misinformation, disinformation, straight up false. So it's relatively safe, in my opinion. Doesn't mean anything other than in my opinion. But this is a video of a music festival. And if you look up here, you can see paratroopers. That's Hamas paratroopers dropping very close to this music festival. Now, later on, you at least get some reports, again, whether it's absolutely true or not, loosely based on truth or not 100% sure, but you get reports that one of the female individuals that was later paraded around, beaten, bruised, and in very bad shape by Hamas, reportedly, was at this music festival. So again, the report is that 250 bodies were discovered at the music festival site, ranging from Americans, German, Norwegian, but others as well. So obviously that's brutal. That's a brutal deal. This one right here says the next world war is about to kick off, and we gave 50 billion worth of military equipment to the Taliban, and now sending the rest to Ukraine. We have open borders, letting enemy fighters in by the thousands every day. And our GOP in the House is still crying about Rhino Kevin McCarthy being removed as Speaker. Priorities. Now, in no way is this going to turn political, just so you're aware. It's just information. Matt Wallace, honestly, drives me absolutely insane. I'm not a fan. But he threw out a tweet that, reading through the comments, was very interesting. He said, "Do you believe the Bible is playing out in real time right now?" And if you go through these tweets, the Bible is always playing out, even when we can't see it. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will all be called children of God. The only anti-war president in modern time is Trump. Peace through strength, Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. We know only too well that war comes not when forces of freedom are strong, but when they are weak. It is then the tyrants are tempted. This is from Ronald Reagan. But if you have any interest, actually, I'll drop this in the chat for anybody who wants to look through the comments. Some of it was pretty interesting. Some of it was kind of ridiculous. But it was a good conversation spark. There are more than 4,500 comments on that tweet. So if you're trying to see where kind of people are thinking about the prophecy play out, the Bible playing out, it's an interesting is the word for it. Interesting. And then I just try to collect some other tweets that people put out regarding kind of the biblical perspective. This is biblical. The person says, when will people understand? The coming war between Israel and Iran is setting the stage for the Great Tribulation. Read the last book in the Bible, Revelation, and then it goes on. If Israel is at war, then the whole world will soon also be at war. God is jealous after his own. God's own are from every nation, tribe, and people. Read the book of Revelation. Yeshua, Jesus is the only true king forever and ever. And that's it for Twitter. Now, give me 1 second. Matthew 24:4-6. Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come." So I guess the thesis, the question here is, we're seeing a war in Israel. Anytime conflict in Israel arises, you have people screaming about Revelation, screaming about the fulfillment of prophecy, screaming about, the end is near. We're in the end times. We're in the end times. Well, how many times can you do that before nobody cares about what you're saying? How many times can we cry prophecy fulfilled just for it to be fulfilled again several years later, if not sooner? Is the conflict in Israel a sign of the end times? Yes and no. Why yes and no? I say yes and no because since the beginning of time, conflict in Israel has been a relatively consistent thing. It's been extremely consistent for many years. Jewish history has been filled with persecution and suffering. Yet Israel's nation national destiny is to fulfill the promise of God swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In you, through the Messiah, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. That's Genesis 12:3. Now here is an incomplete list, incomplete as the key word, of all who have had strife with Israel. And again, incomplete. So this is not a full list. The Ammonites, the Egyptians, the Philistines, the Babylonians, the Amalekites, the Assyrians, you've got the Midianites, the Persians, the Romans, and the list genuinely does go on. These are all nations, states, groups of people who have had issue or conflict with Israel over the years. So was it the Egyptians that the end time started? Was it with the Babylonians? Was it with the Romans? Was it with the Assyrians? It's every time, oh, this is prophecy. This is prophecy. This is revelation. This is the end times. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, well, now we have the Palestinians, Hamas. Is this it now? Which one is it? From the Assyrian king to Hitler, and yeah, that Hitler, to the Iranian leadership, Israel has been a target throughout all of history. One source on Israel and Revelation, specifically the tie between the two, said this: Satan's desire is to eradicate the Jewish people from the face of the earth. That is why anti-Semitism is popular, why super cessationism or replacement theology is growing in mainline denominations, and why the world condemns the Jewish state's existence, despite all of the irrefutable evidence that Israel is not only legitimate, but one of the most humane societies in the world today. Obviously, that is subjective. God's promises to Israel are central to biblical prophecy. That's absolutely true. And they are the fulcrum upon which prophecy rests. That part is not subjective. That is biblically accurate. God's promises to Israel are central to biblical prophecy. Absolutely true. And they are the fulcrum upon which prophecy rests. Absolute truth. Absolute truth. Christians at large believe that the reason Israel has always been a target by its neighbors goes back to the Bible, in that Israel has a special place within humanity from God's perspective. That is very obvious if you read the Bible. The belief is that Israel, one way or another, will always be under persecution, which it basically always has, but that it will fail until the second coming. So Israel will remain under pretty consistent persecution one way or another. However, it will always fail. And we've also seen that. So once you see that persecution not fail, in my opinion, that would be a better sign that, you know, we're at the end times, or that revelation is something to even start considering at that point. If we base the end times off of conflict in Israel alone, then the end times would have happened dozens of times already. That's the truth. Making what is happening right now in Israel just a continuation of the already happened end times that have lasted hundreds of years. Very important thing, in my opinion, to get that. This is not new. This has been happening. Now, I have something here for you. Give me 1 second. This is a Jewish individual who is in Israel right now. So he's going over basically the timeline of humanity from a biblical perspective within a very specific context. So listen, and somebody let me know as soon as possible if you can't hear it, but you should be able to.
Part, and I'll translate it as I read. So he says, Ki sheshet yemei bereshith hem kol yemot haolam. The 6 days of creation account for all of world history. Ki kiyumo yeh sheshet alafim shana, because world history will last 6,000 years. Shelakach amru. Now the Chazal say, the rabbis of the Talmud say, and here's the footnote 39. I could not find the source. I think the pagination is different, or the numbering is different in the source that I have and the source that he quotes here. It says Breshit Rabbah, and note 39 Bet Resh is Breshit Rabbah. That's rabbinic midrash on Genesis chapter 19 verse 14. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. I'll have to use Sephardic to do an exact search of this, but it says here in the parentheses, Yom Echad Mishlei Shehu Elef Shanim. One day is analogous to 1,000 years. It says in Breshit Rabbah, which is a Talmudic era exegetical work on Genesis. So anyway, after that footnote, Yomo Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu Elef Shanim. So he says, he's quoting the midrash here, a day for God is 1,000 years.
A midrash, for anybody who's not aware, a midrash is basically a Jewish commentary. That's what a midrash is.
Years long. So in the first 2 days of creation, the world was entirely water. Nothing was made on those first 2 days. That is analogous to the first 2,000 years of the world from Adam to 2,000 years later, where nobody called on God's name. There was no worshiping of God. The Kachamru, in this footnote 40, this quotes Maseches Avodah Zarah Daf Tet Amud Aleph. So this is a tractate of Avodah Zarah in the Talmud, page 9, side 1. Shnei Alafim Tohu. I actually read that part recently. I'm going through Masechet Avodah Zarah now. So it says the first 2,000 years was Tohu, was like spiritually empty in the world. There was no recognition of God at all. Avahayta Bria B'Yom Rishon Ha'or. The first day of creation was the light. Kineged Elef Shanim Elef Shel Yemot Adam Shehaya Oro Shel Olam. So that was the first 1,000 years that Adam lived. Adam did recognize God. None of his kids did. They all ended up being pretty bad until I think Enosh, 1,000 years after that. But here it says that Adam, he lived to 930, so approximately 1,000 years. So the first day is light, and that corresponds to the first 1,000 years of history where there is light because Adam is still alive and he recognizes God. Or Shel Olam Makir et Boro, he recognizes his creator. And there was no idol worship until Adam died. So the second 1,000 years of the world corresponds to the flood, right? That was the time during that second 1,000 years when Noah was separated off from mankind, and his righteous kids were separated from the evil people of the world who were flooded with a flood, right? The second day is when God separates the land from the waters, and the second 1,000 years is the flood. The third day, you have the growth of the trees. This began when Abraham, the first one to recognize that there was a God after Adam, was 48 years old. And that's when they started to use God's name again, to understand that there is a creator. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the whole comment.
Okay, so for some people, you're like, what the hell did you just play me? I'm 100% totally lost. Don't worry, just hang tight. So he's going to expand on some of this and show a chart. Granted, it's in Hebrew, but he's going to explain it so you're going to understand at least generally what's going on. And it looks like, from what Ghost is saying, when we do the movie screening, which the plan is for Saturday, of Messiah 2030, there will be some expansion on these concepts as well. So if you're 100% lost, it's all good. Just hang tight. And then I would also suggest, be with us on Saturday when we all watch Messiah 2030 together in Discord, and then you'll probably get a bit more of an explanation. But essentially, these are just timelines. And so the next clip I'm going to show you, much more will make sense about why I'm showing you these timelines. So just hang on for 1 second. 1640. All right.
Very interesting if you plot world history, especially Jewish history, by these years.
It's a bit long, so just hang on.
Yesh makom lirot at Stream Shmona, the 28 epics of Shlomo, of Solomon, that are in Ecclesiastes as encompassing all of human history, right? So if you take 6,000 years, divide them by 28, so here are the 28 epics. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to spread out, a time to build, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to eulogize, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to hug, a time to distance from hugs, a time to request, a time to lose, a time to guard, a time to send out, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to be quiet, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Those are the 28 epics. If you divide 6,000 by 28, you get 214 years per epic. Now, just to go through the beginning here, I'm not going to go through every single time period here, but it does match up very well to biblical history and to current history.
What he's doing is he's going through the list of the epics. He's breaking them down in chronological order and within a time frame of biblical history. And what not he found, but whoever he's reading from found, is that it seems to align perfectly. And at the very end of this, it's going to make sense. And it's going to tie directly into what we're looking at with Israel and what's happening in Gaza right now. So just hang tight.
History. So we'll do some of the biblical history, we'll do some of the current history. A time to be born. That says here, that's the creation of man 6,000 years ago. From year 1 to year 214. A time to die is when Cain was murdered.
And just some background there. So what he's saying is it's what it sounds like he's saying is that the earth is 6,000 years old. So all of the old earth creationists lose their minds. That's not really what he's saying. This is just in terms of the epic, and this is just in terms of when Adam walked. So there are a lot of theories, especially within the Jewish faith, that the earth is millions of years old, but that Adam was actually physically here about 6,000 years old. So just some clarity on that.
Cain was murdered by, when Hevel was murdered by Cain. Abel was murdered by Cain. That's a time to die. A time to plant. That's the beginning of the development of culture with all these inventions of copper and music and these kinds of things. Matches up to the year 643. If you add up the ages in the Bible of the people who were involved here. The year 857, time to uproot. That's when a third of the world was wiped out. This is not the flood. This is according to the rabbis of the Gemara. So we can keep going here. 1714, that is a time to build. Time to build corresponds to the years of the Tower of Babel. A time to laugh corresponds to the life of Abraham. The life Abraham laughed when he had Isaac at the age of 99 in 2047. That period ends in 2142. We can keep going here. We're going to go towards the end here, so you can see how it also matches up with modern history. Well, we can start with A Time to Love. A Time to Love ends in 53, 55. This is around the Renaissance. This is during the Renaissance of the 14th to 15th centuries, 14th to 16th centuries of Renaissance, Europa. And we have A Time to Hate. That ends in the year 55, 69, which is a year of incredible pogroms against the Jewish people and a lot of murders in Eastern Europe. Now we have a modern history here. Eight Milchama. This is the second to last epic. And look at the year here, 5784. It ends in 5784. That is this year. This epic of A Time for War ends. So this is the last year of Eight Milchama. I'm not sure if it ends this Nisan, this Passover, or next Passover. It depends if the count here started at 1 or 0, and that's kind of confusing. The same thing with the millennial issue, 2000, 2001, whatever. So here, this epic started 214 years ago, which corresponds to Napoleon's invasion of Russia with 600,000 soldiers in the Grand Armée. He lost that war. 600,000 corresponds to the number of Israelites that left Egypt. It is the number that has a lot of halachic significance for Jews, a lot of Jewish law significance. When you see 600,000 people, you say a special blessing. This also has a lot of other significance in terms of Jewish law. But anyway, this period of Eight Milchama, time for war, began 214 years ago in 1811. Right, that's Napoleon's invasion of Russia, continues into World War I, continues into World War II, the nuclear age, and possibly Gog and Magog, Gog and Magog, and the Book of Ezekiel, which is the final war. And this ends this year. So if it ends this Passover, and the Jewish tradition is that the Messiah will come in and to redeem the Jews and rebuild the third temple around Passover or on Passover in the month of Nisan. It could be this year, it could be next year. I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, it looks like a major war has broken out, and I don't know what the end of it will be. I don't know if it will become regional or turn into Gog and Magog, or the final war. Maybe it won't. Maybe this is all just spinning of spiritual wheels and it's a false calculation. It could be. I'm not putting 100% faith in it, and neither should you or anybody else. But it is something to think about and focus.
All right, so that's that. Hopefully it started to make a bit more sense as we got towards the end there. If you're still 100% lost, don't feel bad. We will get some clarification on Saturday, and we'll go into depth on any of it. If you have any specific questions about any of that, just write it down and save it, or throw it in like the theology section or the biblical section in Discord, and I'll get in there, or somebody will get in there and help you clarify. Otherwise, we will talk about it next Saturday. But just an interesting thing, right? So I would put a lot more weight in historical studies like that when trying to decide kind of what's happening in the world right now. Is it biblically relevant? Is it something I care about? Is it something that is is it giving us a sign in some way, somehow? I'm going to put a lot more weight personally in rabbinical breakdowns like that of people who have skin in the game, one, and aren't just a bunch of Americans who think that they know what they're talking about. And two, is not entirely based on a section of the Bible. I'm trying to be real careful. A section of the Bible that is probably the least reliable than any other book in the canon, which is Revelation. It's impossible to interpret without guessing massive amounts. I would prefer personally to go towards biblical history more on that type of angle. If you want to listen to that full video, or if you want to listen to anything else that he did, his link is in the description, so you can take a look at that. Now, real quick, one other thing that I just want to throw it out there. I want to throw it out there because I've heard a lot of different conversations so far discussing this part. I don't know enough personally to have a full opinion on it, but I just want to lay it down. And if anybody, maybe one of you knows more than I do, maybe it's just absolutely crazy. I have no idea, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about. So one thing to consider, the Israeli borders are some of the most heavily, intelligently, and monitored borders around. Google it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google how secure the Israeli borders are, or were, I suppose. It was quite secure. A lot of technology as well involved in keeping the borders secure. So why was it so easy, and why did it seem so delayed reaction time wise by the time the Israeli army met them and started to push back? It seemed as if it could go a couple of different ways. Perhaps they knew it was coming and they allowed it to happen to a point so that they were more justified in some kind of retaliation. I've heard that theory. Makes sense. I mean, pretty disgusting, but makes sense because a lot of people died in the process of that. Beyond that, the only other thing that would really make sense is that it's some kind of false flag, right? So people are obviously tossing that theory around. Like I said, I have no opinion either way. Just an interesting thing to think about. That's all. It's a very secure border. It seemed like on this day at this time, it was not secured at all. And so it's a curious thing to just think about. Another thing that's obviously getting tossed around quite a bit is people relating it to 9/11, right? And based off the same thing, that some people are believing that it is either an inside job or that they allowed it to go to a point so that they were more justified in having the type of reaction that they are hoping to have. Now, another thing that I think I showed a tweet at the very beginning, these are just weird facts, just throwing them out there. Anybody who knows in detail about anything that I'm saying, feel free to jump in the voice channel on Discord and let's talk about it. I'm not saying I subscribe to any of this. I'm not telling you anything that I personally believe. I'm telling you a whole bunch of crap that I found, and that's all. So another thing that apparently happened, and I've seen a couple different reports, so I don't really know where it sits in all accuracy, but that we, being the US, sent Iran some odd millions or billions of dollars. I've seen several reports that say it's upwards of $10 billion, and it was a week ago. I've seen other reports that say it's several $1 million, and that was just a couple of days ago. Either way, that is something that if you care, do some searching into. I am not going to talk anymore about it because one, I don't want this to become political, and two, I don't want to get demonetized on YouTube. But that is one thing that if you care about this whole thing, the situation of it, what is happening possibly behind the scenes, then go take a look at that. Another thing that's being reported on is that Ukraine gave the Palestinians the weapons. Now, there are some community notes on those videos saying that the accent in the video is actually Russian and that it doesn't seem authentic. However, it hasn't been validated either way, I guess. But another interesting just possibility of a scenario that if you care, do your own research. So does it end with Israel, this conflict? Does it start and end with Israel? I would personally say no. And this is why. This war is not just Iranian involvement, nor are the Islamic ties to wanting Jerusalem the big crux of this entire thing. What do we have going on right now? Total, big picture. Big picture, we have Russia and Ukraine. We have Azerbaijan and Karabakh. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but you have another war in that area. We also have Taiwan and China, which is not a war yet, but it's been more tense than it has been historically. And you also have this odd point place that the U.S. is in, where we're at war with Russia. We're just not saying it. We're providing finances, weapon. We're fueling the war in Russia. We're just not there. But even then, you know, people are saying we have special forces there and this and that. But there's basically I'm trying to be really, really careful, man. What happened to get us here? I'll say that. What happened to get us here in this geopolitical shit show? Why are we here? What was one of the first things that began to break down that, in my opinion, resulted in us being in this geopolitical atmosphere that we are now in? The United States has done everything, motherfucking everything in its power to make itself as weak as humanly possible. From oil reserves being drained to sending massive amounts of money out of the country to fuel other wars, to keeping troops places that they have no business being, to destroying the culture in such a way that our citizens at an individual level don't know what's between their legs, which has done what? It's massively disrupted our military presence. It's massively disrupted our appearance, at the very least, to other powers within the world. But it's also completely wrecked it just in all literal sense of the word. We have probably the weakest psychologically and physically military that the United States has ever had. We have nobody wanting to join. We have people leaving in droves to get the hell away from the military. And sadly enough, the people who we want in the military, because they're strong psychologically and physically, because they're skilled, they've been trained, they're the people who want nothing to do with it anymore. Because now you have dudes in high heels in the military, and you have no physical standards for what somebody has to be able to perform or achieve to be in the military. The whole system has completely collapsed. So the U.S. has done everything in its power to completely dismantle our culture, which has then branched off into every area. It's hit exports. It's hit imports in a way. It's hit our military. It's affected absolutely everything. Our kids have never been dumber than they are right now today. Scores in school, which is a reflection of the intelligence of children, proves that our kids are the dumbest kids that have ever lived in the United States. That's a staggering thing to have a realization about. We have the dumbest population we've ever had. We're not having kids, so population in general is dropping. All of these things amount to you're effed. Our superpower status has been slowly getting pulled back and slowly being destroyed over time. Culturally, geopolitically, demographically, financially, and strategically, we are as weak as we have ever been. By a country ass mile, as we've ever been. The U.S. is in such a precarious place right now that if something doesn't flip super fast, I don't know how you recover from this. And in all honesty, not to be total cynic, even if it did flip right now, I think it's, in a way, I think it's too far gone. But is it surprising that there are wars breaking out all across the world right now? What used to be the stability of the world, you know, for better or for worse, whatever your opinion on it is, it was the US in almost every aspect. In a safety aspect, in a trade aspect, in a financial in general aspect. I mean, the US dollar runs the world. All of these things used to be secure. Now, for those of you who don't follow the news or specifically don't follow finance, you have BRICS right now, which is basically starting a coup against the US to destroy the euro dollar. So within, and it's not going to be fast, but within 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the dollar, the US currency, will not be the reserve currency anymore. And you have other countries that involve India, Russia, Africa. The BRICS nations have come together as recent as a couple months ago and have started to put this into motion, saying, yeah, we're not going to deal in the US dollar anymore. What do you think is going to happen to our quality of life when the US dollar is not the world reserve currency? Your quality of life is going to go to shit. Believe that. Nobody in here right now listening to this, nobody in our Discord group, maybe a few of you are old enough to really know. And the only reason I know is because I like this stuff, so I'm very involved in it. But most of us cannot imagine what life would be like in the US should the world reserve currency not be the US dollar. Your life is going to look so dramatically different. It's you can't conceive it. You'll understand when we get there. In 20 years, the reserve currency will be seashells. Seashells. Yeah, but man, it's scary as hell. It's scary as hell. And that's just one piece of this massively fucked up puzzle, is just currency. It's a big deal, man. It's a really, really big deal. And if that's one of 100 different things right now that is slowly pulling us out of a position of power, it's a really precarious place that we're going to be in. It's going to be a really tough thing for people to start to stomach and then to deal with. Now, real quick, I just thought this was interesting. So this is a quote in reference to Revelation. It says this: Israel is represented as a woman about to deliver a child. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. That's 12, 1 and 2. John F. Walvoord, the late president of the Dallas Theological Seminary, explained this. He said, the woman symbolized Israel, as indicated by Genesis 37, 9 through 11, where the sun and the moon referred to Jacob and Rachel, Joseph's parents. These stars in the woman's crown clearly related to the 12 sons of Jacob and identified the woman as Israel, fulfilling the Abrahamic covenant. I just thought that was it was just very well said. It was very well said. Very simple, very well said. So I wanted to share that. Currency. What's the meaning of reserve currency? The applicable meaning of reserve currency is who runs the financial format of the world. Meaning oil, for example, oil is always it's the example always given. When different countries buy and sell oil, the US dollar is what's used to trade it, which it stimulates our economy. Now, if, say, the ruble begins to be the reserve currency for oil, that means the US would have to exchange oil in rubles. So what does that stimulate? Not the US, that stimulates that country, the country of origin. So when the US dollar is the reserve currency, it means every country in the world is required to keep, hold, and invest US dollars, which is good for us because we have massive government debt. There's a lot of trading and swapping that can happen because other countries are using our money. So we can make callbacks on it. If that changes, which it's beginning to, that means we lose all of our leverage, basically within the financial markets. We have run the financial markets forever, all of modern reality. That is slowly shifting. Big financial companies are leaving the US. Liquidity in the US it's not dropped yet, but there are indications that eventually it will. And like I said, a bunch of big countries have already began to meet, like the BRICS summit, and begin to talk about what are we going to do because we are not using the US dollar anymore to trade. No one can say what the Great Reset is, but everyone is talking about it. What do you think the Great Reset is, Dumb Cat? It's good to see you, by the way. I feel like it's been a little bit since you've been around. Dumb Cat, help educating people to wake up. There's no other way. Yeah. I mean, if you know what it is, or you think you're confident in what your opinion of the Great Reset is, then throw it out there, man. Throw it out there. There's a lot of theories. So it depends on whether you mean Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset. If that's what you're talking about, anybody can read the book and find out. Or if you're talking about what might potentially be the actual Great Reset, quote unquote, because it's not going to go down the way that it's been portrayed, obviously. One thing that I do want to bring up that I want to be really careful about because of YouTube is open borders. How does open borders relate to any of this? How does open borders relate? I'm not just going to answer the question. So you guys can either throw some thoughts out there. Otherwise, I'll just move on to the next thing because I need to be careful. But open borders, how might that have anything to do with these wars? Why might that be involved in basically every major first world country has adopted this open borders thing? Why might that be? For what purpose? One of them that might come to mind is population decrease, right? That's kind of like, as weird as it is, that's like a positive thought process about what open borders is, right? To say, well, populations within first world countries are dropping because people aren't having as many kids. Now, consider this for a second. Consider this. If on average you have, say, every family has 3 kids. Okay, let's say every family on average has 3 kids. No, let's make it 4. 4 kids. 4 kids. Every family in the world has 4 kids. Multiply that by several million people, and then that gives you the number of children popping into existence in our country. Okay. Now, if the rate of decline in births drops by 50%, which I believe, I'm trying to pull it up right now, but I believe it's dropped by more than that. But if it's dropped by at least 50%, do that math and see how alarming that is. If for hundreds of years, everybody had 4 kids, multiplied by millions of people, that's a lot of kids. Cool. Now cut the number literally in half, if not more. That's a super scary number. And how does that affect life? How does that affect the workforce? How does that affect government spending? How does that affect literally anything? It affects it in a massive way. A massive, massive way. Give me 1 second, man. I'm trying to find our birth rate chart here. CPI. But so what else? Because I gave the easy answer. If birth rates decline, that might be one reason for why governments want open borders. Because houses need to be rented, apartments need to be rented, jobs need to be filled. We just got jobs numbers over the past 3 weeks. We've gotten jobs numbers every week, and the open jobs are high. We have a bunch of open jobs, which is kind of in contrast to what people are saying, that we're headed towards a recession or we're in a recession. Okay, well, maybe that's true, but we have tons of open jobs. That, in a way, negates the idea that we're in a recession, at least normally. It might not right now, though, with what we have going on. But what's another reason that they would want us to have open borders? I saw Ghost said chaos. Gave us the plot line to the Great Reset way back when. Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. Can't have order without first having chaos. Yep. Yeah, so you mean like shooting for societal collapse so that it's easier to build back? Which would make sense. That would make sense. All right, y'all. This is the crude birth rate. This is what we're looking at. Okay. Crude birth rate for the United States over a 12-month period. So at the top left here, this is Friday, the 1st of January in 1960. We had a massive decline in birth rate through 60 to 68. That was roughly a 26% decline in birth rate. Okay, then come to January in 1970, down to 76. That's an additional 20% drop in birth rate. Then we had a rise from the 70s to the early 90s, which makes sense, right? If you think about it, what was going on in the 70s and 80s? Yeah, there's probably more kids. There's probably more kids being born. However, come 90, we drop and hit a level of a lower 16%. And then we hit a level of 26 drop. And then where we are right now, we're 34% lower than 1990. However, from 1960, we are 54% lower. 54%. So I was close enough. My example was every family has 4 kids. Now cut those children in half, the number of kids in half. And then imagine what that does to society. So this is why some people are saying, okay, well, they're opening borders because we have jobs that need to be filled. We have apartments and homes that need to be rented. There are positions, there are things within our country that keep society going that we need people in there. I need people in there. And if our culture, if our country is not going to have the adequate number of kids to fill these positions later, then we'll just open the damn borders and bring in whoever we can. To me, that's a cop-out. It's a very easy answer that to an idiot makes sense. So, and I guess I won't say idiot. I take that back. That was kind of rude. To a non-critically thinking person makes sense. So someone says, oh man, well, our birth rates dropped 50%. We don't have enough people to fill jobs and homes. Well, of course, opening the borders makes sense. That's why they would open the borders. Let's get these people in here. There's not too many people. They're not bringing in too many people. We have too few people here. We need them in. Cool. Makes sense if you don't think critically. If you think critically, we did that to ourselves. Why did the birth rate drop? There's a lot of different reasons. But if looking back, you can't say, okay, they intentionally had our birth rates drop, then you're dumb. In all love and respect, you're dumb. It was intentional. Push abortion, push birth control, push fatherless households. It's not an accident. Regardless of how you feel about abortion and birth control, it's not an accident that it's being shoved down every female's throat that walks this freaking planet. It's not an accident. Are more people easier to control, or are fewer people easier to control? Fewer. So yeah, cool. Let's cut the population in half. Now, is a strong population easier to control, or is a population that's flooded with migrants easier to control? When there's disarray, or like Ghost said, when there is chaos. You can't have order without first having chaos. What's a great way to create chaos in a country? Flood it with people that don't live there. And nothing against anyone at all. Literally, not at all. But yeah, let's flood 20 different cultures with 10 different languages all into one country that's already in a shit show right after we make our own population not know if they're a man or a woman. Now flood that bitch. Chaos. Chaos. It is the perfect storm, and it is the perfect storm because it is intentional. It's not an accident. Drop the population, confuse the population, then start a war between men and women. That's a huge thing culturally right now. I just posted a video the other day about it. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. Shannon, good point. The pandemic. So let's say cut population. Done. More than 50%. 54.5% dropped. Cool. Done. Birth control. Abortion. Feminism, and not the good kind, the bad kind. Third wave feminism. Feminism. Wars between men and women, where men hate women now and women hate men now, and the nuclear family has all but been destroyed. Okay, strife. Now we have strife between men and women who are supposed to be bonded. Men and women. What happens next? Another good one, like Shanna said, is the pandemic. Great test to see how people react, to see who will listen to stupid shit that makes no sense at all. Cool. There's another one. What else has happened? What else has happened? Poisoned food. Great example. All of our food is literally poison. Yes. A lot of the food that we eat in the US is literally illegal in other countries. That's not, I'm sure everybody's heard that. Actually look into it. It's legitimately true. A lot of those things are outlawed for food processors to use. So that's a good one. Yeah. Poison their food. Confuse the hell out of them. Okay. What was that? That was this whole trans thing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying nobody's actually trans. I believe some people fucking are. I do. I don't believe that the amount of people right now who are claiming it are. That is a cultural thing. That is cultural decay. So we have all of that. Now we're confusing the population to the point that they don't know what's between their own legs. Then what did they do right after that? The kids. They started to go after the kids. In a bunch of different ways, if we're being honest. But now we have a ridiculously uneducated youth. We have youth crime at all-time highs. Youth pregnancy, all-time highs. However, they all just have them aborted now, which causes trauma to a lot of younger people, regardless of how you feel about any of that stuff. It is something that happens. You have all of that. What else has happened? What else has happened? Food, glad you cut. Joe, your recent video on marriage. Yeah, I just wanted to yell. Honestly, I just want to be pissed off. So it was a good outlet. It was a good outlet. Mansplaining also kills several feminists a year, bro. The E. coil found in hundreds of pounds of... Oh, the E. coli. Yeah. Yes. I'm honestly tired of feeling like I'm doing something radical by being married and having my first child already at 29. Nat, that is right on. That is what you are supposed to... Honestly, I would say you're kind of late. You're kind of late. I think in an ideal world, people are getting married in their very late teens, early 20s. Not the kind of married that we do where it's based on your emotions and it's based on oxytocin and chemicals and sex, but getting married based on a commitment to an individual that you have love for, and that regardless of how the feelings coming over the years, you have committed to them and you're going to stay with them through the bitter end because it's not about you. It's about the kids and it's about society at large. Anyways, I think you're right on track. You're killing it. Keep going. Don't feel bad. You're not radical. That is normal. That is what was normal for a very long time and is what needs to be normal. Again, this bullshit that's happening right now is what is radical. It's radically crazy. It's psychotic. Your life seems absolutely beautiful and very normal. Don't be tired about that. Be proud. Yeah, exactly. Be absolutely proud of that. Indoctrinating the kids via social media and in schools. Yeah, that's a consider TikTok and what it's doing to children. Or even just shorts in general. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of these videos that just they drop dopamine in these kids' heads every 60 seconds. It's brainwashing, obviously, but it's also like psychologically degrading. They have no attention span. They don't care about anything because it's just the next hit and the next hit and the next hit. Okay, what's that 20-year-old going to be like? That 7-year-old, when they're 20, what are they going to be like? When they're 30, what are they going to be like? This is the most beautiful systematic degradation of a society that I'm aware of. And it's obviously happened before in other periods of history, but due to technology, due to control, due to reach, I feel like what is happening now is on a different level. And I could definitely be wrong. It's just my opinion. But I think it's on a different level, the way that it is happening. Moloch sacrifices go, bro. Yes. The money printer. Extremely proud being a wife and a mother is more fulfilling than my career ever was. Having to explain it is the annoying part. Don't even explain it. If anybody wants you to explain that, walk away. They are not worth your time. If somebody doesn't understand that you raising a child who hopefully, I assume, based on who you are, is going to become a productive member of society that is not indoctrinated into this bullshit and is not insane and is not confused about whether your child is a boy or a girl, and then that feeds up into all this crazy stuff as they get older, your child will be a part of the solution. We need more of you to go have children. That's exactly what we need. It's the most beautiful thing ever. Keep doing it. Have more kids. Pump those babies out. Cut those broads out of your life. Yeah, 100%. Cut those people out. Dopamine flooding and ADHD helps maintain chaos, so it makes sense. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. In my personal opinion, the world is going to shit. I think most of us agree with that. The world is going to shit. But it is the world we live in. This is our world now. So anyways, all of that in consideration, none of this is an accident, in my opinion. What's happening in Israel is not a new thing. No, I don't think it's the start of the end times. No, I don't think this is biblical prophecy coming to life, because if based on the current criteria, you're going to say this is Revelation fulfilled, then you would also have to say all of these other conflicts throughout history were also Revelation fulfilled. You don't get to just ignore it every time it happens and the world doesn't end. And that's, unfortunately, that's what Christians do. We say, oh, this is it. This is Revelation. Jesus is coming. And then when it doesn't happen, we wait about a year or two, and then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And it's insanity. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You're insane. Stop. My opinion, of course. And who the hell am I? Nobody. But in my opinion, this has no relation to Revelation whatsoever. It is just another conflict in Israel. It's not a new thing. It's not a prophetic. I mean, actually, I take that back. It is a prophetic thing, but it is not the mark of the end. It's not the sign of the times that are coming to end. In my opinion, that's not where we are. That's not where we are. Hell yeah, hubby wants at least 5, one at a time. Yes, girl, get it. Killing it. That's a beautiful thing, man. That's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. Honestly, that's something you got to think about, man. And who talks about this? It's either Tim Pool or man, I don't remember. One of kind of like the, more leaning right political independent guys always talks about how in 20 years, super liberal, like radicals, I have nothing against liberal people, but liberal radicals will not exist because people who are conservative are pumping out kids like Nat, 5 at a time, boom, boom, boom. And on the radical liberal left, they're killing all their kids. So they're not going to have any kids. So about 20 years, it'll be a massively conservative country, and the liberal side will all but disappear. Now, the only wrench in that theory is open borders. So if consider, say, Hispanic culture for an example, and obviously open borders, a hell of a lot more cultures than just Hispanic are coming over the border. But consider the Hispanic culture, they have a lot of kids. So assuming they adopt radical leftism, then you've got a little bit rougher of a statistic to make sense of, because they're going to have a bunch of kids and, carry on. However, Hispanic culture is also relatively conservative. So they can flood the world, where they can flood the US with Hispanics. A lot of them are very conservative. A lot of them are actually more conservative than a lot of us, being that they're Catholic Christians. They're hardcore Christians. Very traditional. Very traditional. So it's just an interesting thing to think about. Should this keep playing out, radical leftism will seemingly just die because there will be none left. They will just keep getting rid of their own kids. Choreographed. Yep. The world has always been violent shithole. In the last week, I was threatened by a man swinging a claw hammer and another man swinging a steel pipe. Wow. Where do you live? San Francisco? Manhattan? Chicago? Sounds like it. Choreographed. Yeah, of course. Revelation is a specific pattern template. If 90% of those things take place, then it's not fulfilling prophecy. Only when all the details align will it be prophetic fulfillment. Yeah, and in similar kind, that people who believe Christ is the messianic prophecy fulfilled, he has to check all of the boxes. He can't check 80% and then call it, close enough. Prophecy fulfilled. Jesus is the Messiah. No, he's got to fill 100%. 100% or nothing. It's all or bust within prophecy. It's got to be everything. This is a great point. I never thought of it that way. We're the only ones keeping nuclear families alive and teaching them how to be productive members of society. I love that perspective. Yeah, it's kind of the bright side, right? It's the silver lining. The silver lining is that there will be none left because all they do is get rid of their kids from abortion and birth control. They're not going to have kids. Conservatives, on the other hand, like Nat, are popping out 5. Massively outnumbered in 20 years. Like, all we got to do is hang out, hang on, hold tight, hold the line, and then eventually it'll all be good. I got something to say. You struck a nerve. Oh, Jesus. You're not in the voice channel, Shannon. You need to get in the voice channel. I've got 15 minutes tops, guys, and then I got to jump off. I got to do some work before I go to bed. Do TikTok. Get off TikTok. Go to YouTube. Same username. Don't ever watch these on TikTok. You can't see anything. You can't hear anything. All right, guys, couple of minutes. I'm going to hop off. So if anybody wants to come on the voice channel, you can. Just let me know when you're in there so I can unmute it from the stream. And otherwise, if you've got any last any things to throw out, throw them out now. Or we're going to start wrapping up for the night. Uh-oh. Oh, Shannon, you coming? Okay, give me a second. Enough said. Yeah, man, we covered a lot in an hour. That was a action-packed hour, my friends. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, Shannon. All right, hold on. Let me get you through here. Hi, Shannon. You're
Sorry.
good.
Hi.
Hey.
So I got something to say.
Okay.
Do you think it's, or I got something to ask. Do you think it's possible that because of what you said about conservatives having more babies, that they are opening up the borders because some of these immigrants from other countries are left-leaning?
Yeah, that's maybe you missed it, but that was kind of my follow-up to that, is that the only wrench in it, in the theory, is that, yeah, they're with open borders, we're having all of these other cultures flood the United States with their kids. So assuming they're left leaning, and the only reason that makes any damn sense is because the leftists are the one bringing them in. So if the people who are migrating in are going to be sympathetic to one political party or the other, it's going to be the Democrats, because they're the ones who brought them there. However, once these migrants come here and they've been here for a minute, like we've seen with the Hispanics, the Cubans, once they realize how fucked everything is, then they'll flip right anyways. We saw it with with a massive portion of the Hispanic community here, and then we saw it with the massive portion of the Cuban community in the United States as well, is that they first come in Democratic because that is who allowed them to come in. But then when they see how fucking massively jacked up the Democratic system right now is, not total, but right now, so nobody get pissed off, they see that and they're like, oh, hell no. Now that I'm here, I'm definitely voting Republican, is what it ended up turning into, you know?
Yeah, so a perfect example of that is one of Gargar's favorite bands, the lead singer Danny Warshna, I think it is, of Asking Alexandria. He went from, being an English immigrant, married a sailor, and now resides in Florida, and he's got a beard, he's got guns, and he's a huge Second Amendment enthusiast.
Yeah. So I think in the short term, it's problematic because we have literally millions of people flooding into the country in a matter of months. So it's going to be problematic in the short term. The other thing that everybody needs to kind of consider is that the other really troubling part of that is that literal millions, that's not an exaggeration, literal millions of people are flooding across the border in a matter of months. And what is happening, or at least what the reports are of what's happening, depending on where the migrants land, what state, what city, they're being given IDs, which means you can vote, and they're being given cell phones and food stamps, which means they're draining on government resources, i.e. our tax dollars. So the only troubling part of that is that we have an election coming up soon. And in the short term, I believe a lot of them will vote Democratic because that is who brought them in. So assuming we get another radical Democrat in office, it could be a problem. That's the only like real wrench in the concept. Even then though, I think still regardless, 10, 15, 20 years out, I think conservative individuals with traditional values will massively outnumber any of that side at all. So I think no matter what way you spin it, long term, all will be okay. However, short term, I think we could be effed. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
It's scary a little bit right now.
Did you hear what happened in Arizona too? That they are now allowing immigrants without papers to work for the police department.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all. It's all over, man. There, I mean, you know where I live. It's a big hub for it right now, and we work all over the south side of the city, and it's just wild. It's wild to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just gonna get worse before it gets any better. But I think everybody should take some kind of solace in the fact that no matter what, 15, 20 years down the line, the number of kids conservative individuals are having will massively outweigh the number that liberals will have. Short term, a little bit problematic because of the migrant situation. But I think most migrants with rational cognitive thinking abilities will eventually come to the realization that the only logical way to vote right now, not always, right now, is Republican. I hope we get to a point where the political system becomes more balanced again, and it's not like psychotic radical people and then like people who just don't want to chop kids' junk off. I hope it becomes more tame than that. But right now, I think anybody with a cognitive functioning brain within 6 months, a year, 2 years after being here will be like, yeah, I'm not going to vote for that shit anymore. Because now I'm here. I want a good life here. I don't want them to keep flooding shit in here and passing crazy policies. So,
hey, Joe.
Yo.
Hey, it's your boy Gar.
What's
How
up?
you doing, partner?
Good. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm just trying to feed the little guy some za before bed.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But one other thing that I know it doesn't get mentioned a whole lot, though, is that at least coming from Texas, when you hear a lot of the Texas reports, I left a comment in the chat earlier saying that open borders destroy a country's infrastructure, which is true. But another thing, too, is that Border Patrol is not just catching people from Latin America. No, they're catching people from India. They're catching people from Russia. They're catching people from the Middle East, North Africa, West Africa. And it's just like, huh? And then all these FEMA camps just giving them court dates and bus tickets and sending them off to God knows wherever.
Yep. No, that's...
And I mean, and I know that our governor also sent a bus loads of people to Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And we've even noticed the population of Virginia changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from one day to the next. It's just like, we go around, we see something as simple as construction workers. Like the construction workers out here are all black or all white. And then now all of a sudden from one day to the next, it's nothing but Hispanic people.
Yeah.
Like, where did they come from?
No, it's
like, literally,
such a wide spectrum. That's why I kind of always said when I gave an example earlier, I was like, even if we just take Hispanics only, then look at it like this. But the reality is it's people from all over the freaking world. It's literally everybody. And then you have these kind of wild reports. And again, I'm not saying I believe this, but there are reports of Uber drivers and people like that who are engaging in an interaction with some of these migrants. And there are a number of reports that I've seen. I saw another one today where an Uber driver picked up a military age male who was a migrant. He had crossed the border within the past day or so. And apparently he told the Uber driver and showed him that he had a UN ID. So there are some theories around that like the UN is contracting people of military males to come into the US. So now you have all these theories of sleeper cells and sleeper agents and things like this within the US, and that at some point they'll get the directive and then, we'll have unrest, civil unrest. But even if you take all that conspiracy bullshit out, because again, I'm not saying I believe it, I'm not saying blah, 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 just theories, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, we do have literal millions and millions of military age males entering the country from, like you said, Russia, Africa, Asia, bunch of people from China, which is somewhat alarming, not because of their culture, but because of their government, from literally everywhere.
No.
Turkey, everywhere.
And that's another thing too, is that they've been promising these people that they're going to do some sort of massive, Democrats like to do crazy things for votes.
Oh yeah.
And exactly. So that being said, though, the main thing that they're not counting on, though, is that like a lot of Hispanic people don't agree with the radical left. A very massive majority of them don't agree with all that craziness. So there's also a good chance that's going to come back to haunt them.
I think midterm it will. I think initially you'll have people who come across who are like, oh, the Democrats got me here, so I love them. But I think give it 6 months, give it a year. All of them in history have shown us this, because the Hispanic population here in the U.S. and the Cuban population here in the U.S., they all started. Yeah, but they all started Democratic when they first got here, seemingly, statistically. And then at a point, they all flipped and went right. Because once you've been here, you don't want it to be a shithole. So once you've been here and you realize what the Democratic side is pushing, at least at the moment, is garbage, they flip. So that's why I think very short term, we're in trouble. Mid to long term, I think it's no problem.
I don't think in the long term will be bad either, but
no.
But also another thing I can take it out of this is Klaus Schwab can just fight me already.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm not resetting.
No shit. Totally with you on that.
But yeah, anyhow, bud. Sorry we ain't been around too much.
No, I know you guys are busy, man. We were just talking about y'all yesterday, though. It was kind of funny timing. But yeah, hopefully we see you around more.
Yeah, we just got back from vacation. We just got back from Texas, so.
Oh, nice. Oh, so you just were you at the border? Were you hanging out to count how many?
No.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
We were in Dallas. Central Texas. Central.
Okay, safe. Well, kind of. Mostly.
Oh, north-ish, central-ish.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at the state. It's a big state.
It is. You're right.
Me being from Illinois, I say it's central, but him from being born and raised in Texas, he says north. So
either way, whichever way you spin it, man. All right. Well, you guys have anything else?
Chat so much. You guys take care.
You guys too. We'll talk to you soon.
Cool. All right. Bye.
All right. Good point. I feel these migrants are sacrificing so much for the well-being of their families that they have no choice but to vote for the policies that will support their future generations. Yeah, exactly. Which I think in the short term, they're deluded into being, into basically pandering to the Democratic Party because they allowed them in. But I think after 6 months, after a year, after they've been here, they're secured here, and now their interests, I don't believe they will align with the party that got them here. I think they will align with the party that wants them to have a good life here and that will perpetuate that possibility. Just by the nature of making the risk decision to immigrate illegally, it's the most logical step. Next step. Yeah, I totally agree. He participates on the whatever podcast with those guys. Who does? I missed something, Mikkel. Joe, those whatever podcast clips, especially the ones with the psychologist. I don't know what I missed, Mikkel, but I'll go back and read it after we get off here because I want to know what you're talking about. It seems like it's something that you mean the fresh and fit guys. Anyways, the UN is definitely involved. Yeah, I believe that. That is my personal opinion. Yes. Cubans are down for Trump by and large, 100%. And so did the Hispanic community. They, in many ways, started on one side. But I mean, Cubans, they've already dealt with communism. They're not trying to deal with that shit again. So once they got privy to what was going on and what the current democratic positions are, current, not always, not future, right now, then yeah, Cubans were like, hell no, we don't want that shit. Bugman bad. Arnold wants to be president. He just said it again on Howard Stern. Well, here's the reality, man. I grew up listening to Howard Stern. And anybody who used to listen to Howard Stern, right now, Howard Stern is a lame ass person. He's a total, no appropriate words for it. He's a POS. And he always has been. But at least in the past, he was willing to be who he really was and not pander to the public. Anyways, the point is the fact that Arnold went on Howard Stern to talk about his presidential aspirations is disturbing as hell. Yeah, Howard Stern is still alive, Ghost, and he is a pansy ass, wildly radical liberal. Wildly. The same guy now getting upset if women wear something that's scandalous, as long as they're on the right, is the same guy that used to do awful things to women on a radio channel for Sirius XM. Same dude. Same dude. Very self-righteous now. Arnold was born in the US. Wasn't. Yeah, no, he wasn't. Was he born Austria, right? I know, but never say never. Stern is the definition of coward. Yes, 100%. Coward, lame ass, awful example for men. All right, guys, it's 7:15. Unless you have anything else pressing, I think we are out for the night. This Thursday, we will be... Oh, interesting. Someone on TikTok said, I'm Jewish, but I don't know if I should support Israel or Palestine. What do I do? Brother, I cannot tell you that. I cannot tell you that. I wish you the absolute best of luck figuring it out, though. I'm not here to tell anybody what to believe. Never have been, never will be. All right, next on Thursday, guys, on Thursday. I'm trying to look up, Ghost, what did we decide to call it? What did you decide to call it? Decrypting scripture. Decrypting scripture. So on Thursday, basically what we're going to do is kind of like a tag team presentation. Ghost and I are going to come on together. We've got some slides that are new perspectives on how to process scriptural content. And then we will be attempting to decode some of what is otherwise coded within the scriptures, within the Bible. It's going to be super interesting. The way Ghostgate perceives all of these things and the way that he approaches a lot of them is wildly different than I promise anybody you've ever heard, like definitely including me. Very, very different, very much outside the box. And then basically what I'm going to do is just badger him with questions to try to have him expand on things and clarify things and stretch or explain more. So it'll kind of just be like a live Q&A where he presents a theory or an idea or a concept, and I basically try to tear it apart. Not like disprove it, but tear it apart in trying to get more information from him about it. That is the plan. So this Thursday will be decrypting scripture. It's going to be real, real good. Anybody who wants to come on and be able to ask questions or make comments or tell us that we're stupid, just make sure you're in the voice channel and Discord when the time comes. And I will show you what we're looking at there in just a second. Anybody who is not in the Discord, go ahead and look at the pinned comment here in the chat. It's at the top right there. Click it. You can join. It's obviously free. It's always going to be free. But hop in there. And then once you're in there, there's an events tab right here at the top of the sidebar panel. The events tab will always have whatever event is going on right now. So tonight there was a banner here for what you're watching right now. Thursday, before Thursday, there will be another banner here that will explain what that next live stream is. Right now, we do 2 a week, Sunday night at 6 p.m. That's what you're watching right now. This is normally a Bible study. We shifted it because of what's happening, obviously, in Gaza. But normally, Sunday night at 6 p.m. is 6 p.m. Central Time is a Bible study. We go verse by verse. We tear the Bible apart, word for word. It is the most in-depth Bible study. I'm very confident to say that. At least my hope is that it's the most in-depth Bible study you ever do. I stop basically after every word and try to explain the geographical context, the just in general, I suppose, the exegetical context of absolutely everything. But so there's the events channel. Then you can always see whatever the latest YouTube video that went up was. So you can see what we're watching right now is right there. If you have not watched this, I recommend to go listen. It's basically just me bitching and moaning about why dating and marriage are so jacked up right now. It was the last video I posted on YouTube, so go check that out. But off topic is where everybody just kind of chats. Theology, culture and news, conspiracy, Bible, everything you could ever want to talk about is there. There's also a prayer request section. So if you want either public prayer or private prayer, you can pop in there. If it's private, it just comes to me and the prayer team. If it's public, then I can read it live on the streams. Now, if you want to talk on Thursday, you need to come in here. All you do is join. That's why you see my face flashing green, is because I'm in there and I'm talking. So when Shannon was on earlier, she was in there as well. And every time she spoke, she flashed. So if you want to come on and speak, all you got to do is join that channel and then let us know within the YouTube chat. And then I'll unmute you and you can pop on. So get in Discord with us there. Okay. Maybe we can disprove some things. I won't be mad. No, of course not, man. People who get mad when their ideas, theories, or opinions get disproven are low IQ people, in my opinion. With my luck, I win with the $1 billion lottery. Then the next day, the dollar will implode. Yeah, that's also my luck. I have very bad luck. For the one that asked, who should you follow? Follow Jesus. Fair enough. I don't disagree. Based. All right, y'all. I'm out. I love you guys. I will see you Thursday for decrypting scripture. And we'll go from there. Oh, Saturday. We're planning on doing a live movie screening. So what we'll do is I'll have a different channel in here. It'll say movie. And on Saturday, oh, I'm not even showing you. Hold on. So where the event voice is, there'll be another channel in here that says movie or live movie or something like that. Something very obvious. Saturday evening sometime, and I'll let you guys know before the end of the week, we're going to screen Messiah 2030 live with a chat up next to it. So if you care to watch it, just pop in, put your screen on, and then you can watch the movie. And then there, like I said, there'll be a live chat there. So if people want to kind of talk during and whatever, if anything super important happens in the movie, we may stop it, try to add context, explain more to it, and then continue on. But it'll basically be like a live study of the film Messiah 2030. So if you're interested in that, that'll be Saturday, late afternoon, evening, sometime in there. Good night, Nat. Thanks for coming in, and keep killing it with the whole family thing. You guys are doing great work. Great work there. 5 kids. Let's go. Get them all. Anyone who has any questions about Judaism, contact Gargar via Discord. Yes, he is a good resource. Fed raising rates again. They say if they continue, the markets will eventually crash. Well, dumb cat, they have to. They have to have the markets correct. My other everything that I do with my time is trading, and you have to have the markets correct. So they will either raise rates or tighten in some capacity until the Nasdaq and the S&P start to falter. They already have. So if it's something you don't pay attention to, over the past couple of weeks, the stock market, the S&P and the Nasdaq have tumbled, just not enough. So they're not going to stop until we get a good correction. But the bigger thing, dumb cat, is the jobs. Jobs numbers have still been good. That is the mark of a healthy economy. So until the jobs numbers come up atrocious, the Fed is going to keep going and keep going and keep going, even if the stock market corrects, even if we drop in the stock market. We just had a bunch of different jobs numbers reports come out over the past 3 weeks. They were all relatively healthy. We were over projected rates, which is wild. It's wild. But until the jobs begin to crash, pointing towards a recession, and then the markets, particularly the S&P and the Nasdaq, begin to actually crash, not just correct, until those points, yeah, the Fed is going to keep tightening, raising, or doing something to restrain and push against people. They have to until those things happen. But for right now, oddly enough, man, the jobs numbers are they're good, which makes no damn sense at all. All right, guys, I love you all. Everybody have a lovely night. We'll see you Thursday. I'll see you in Discord.